This Sikha is going to actually focus on the Haftorah that has to do with Parshas Balak. Right away, in the beginning of the Haftorah, it says, "V'hoyu she'eris Yaakov b'kerev amim rabim," will be the leftover Yidden that will be by the Mechemes Gog Magog. It'll be they'll be Ketal Me'es Hashem, Kerevivim Ali Esav, Asher Lo Yikav Lish Lo Yachleb Bnei Adam. The Rebbe is going to focus mainly on this idea that they're not going to look forward to anybody, and just like he says, just like rain and dew comes from Hashemayim. You don't ask a person for rain and dew. This is something that comes from the Eibishter. The same thing, Yidden will be in such a state where they're not going to need anybody, they're not going to look at anybody, they're only going to look to the Eibishter. And that's mainly the Nekudah that the Rebbe is going to focus on over here in the Sikha and connected with our Parsha. Hadin hu sha'aftoira nikras lachar Parsha tzricha liyis me'inyan Parsha. V'yiseidah mezu me'ein siyum Parsha. That's why it's brought down l'halacha that if you have Parshas that are mechubaras, so you read the Haftorah that has to do with this second Parsha. Or for example, if you read the maftir from a different additional sefer, whether it's Chodesh or something, so then again you read the Haftorah from whatever you did maftir. Opinionenu, Shaychas Parshas Balak l'Haftorah shalachaream, brura l'chura. B'Haftorah mesupar al dvar ma she'amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, Am mizecharna ma'yatz Balak melech Moav v'ma'ana isa bilam ben ba'ir min hashitim gomer. V'zeh toich in Parshas Balak. So it makes sense why what the connection is between the Haftorah and the Parsha. I will move on. B'frat al pi ha'yedua sha'Haftorah mi'ikara ba b'makim kol ha'kriyah Shabbos v'Yom Tov, because they couldn't read the Torah because of a Gzeira, and therefore the Chum or Misakin, they should read a Haftorah. So it's to replace the whole reading of the Torah. You're not just trying, in the simple pshat, you're trying to remind yourself about the Parsha. So if you have one pasuk that reminds you of the meaning of the Parsha, it's Parshas Balak, even though I'm not allowed to read it. But the Rebbe says that since it's about and taking the place of the whole Parsha, so it has to do with the whole Parsha. The emphasis on the word the Roish is because according to Chassidus, the Mittler Rebbe in Ateres Roish speaks about it. Roish includes the entire chayis of the whole body. So the beginning of everything includes the whole thing. Muvan sheyeshna shayches bein ascholos haftoram v'hoya sheres Yaakov b'kerev amim rabim gomer asher lo yikav leish v'lo yachleb bnei adam Parshas Balak in general, and especially l'siyum Parshas Balak. So the majority of the Sikh is going to talk about the Haftorah, then he's going to connect it to the Parsha. Haftorah medubar oidesman hascholos hageulah. So the Rebbe right away emphasizes, what do I mean by hascholah? Koloimar, loy alazman sheboy kvar yeh Moshiach vadai la'achar sheyashlam es kol ha-milchamas ve'efech al amim goymer la'avdo yishchem echad Sharei b'Haftorah mesupar al milchamas sheyiskayim keneged ha'amim umas ha'olam v'hoya she'eris Yaakov b'goyim. It's talking about during the time of Mechemes Gog Magog. They'll be ka'aryeh v'behemas yar v'ramas v'taraf. They'll be able, the king of the Yidden will be like a lion that will trample and will tear its prey. So obviously it's not talking about Moshiach's times. Moshiach's times will already be a time of peace. Yisayim mezu loizu v'vad shemazan ha'medubar b'Haftorah adayin yiram b'chutz u'mas ha'olam, that the Yidden will be at war with them ela af yiram b'fnim b'Yisrael guf. It says later on in the Haftorah, Vichrati shofim yodcha, Vichrati pisilecha, V'natashti asherecha. In other words, all these avodah zaros that are amongst the Yidden, the Eibishter will remove and destroy. V'razeh yeh b'toikev gadol kol kach. That who's going to need to get rid of them? Sheyeh tzorich b'siyom al mayla b'chdei lipater menu. K'diya kakasa v'ichrati v'natashti. So it's all Hashem's doing. Obviously, it's because the Yidden ken sich allein nashanei to geben. They can't manage this on their own. Why? Again, because like I said before, v'tama davar ki Haftorah midaberes bizman hascholos hageulah sheboy tiyena hachonas hachroines legeulah hashleima. V'gam b'parshas seinu, Parshas Balak, also has that in common. Medubar oides man doime, lefnei haknisa l'Eretz Yisrael v'pam rishoyna. B'nei Yisrael kvar hoyu oz ba'arvis moyav me'ever liyardin yerechim. Muchanim likonis l'Eretz Yisrael b'dugmas haknisa l'Eretz Yisrael b'Geulah Asidah. So that's a common denominator. Parshas Balak was before the Yidden went into Eretz Yisrael, and the Haftorah is talking about just before the Geulah. And not only is Parshas Balak just before entering Eretz Yisrael, but in a way it could have been the time just before the Geulah Asidah. Ubefrat al pi ha'yidua shel molei achet ha'isa b'knisa rishoyna l'Eretz Yisrael ha'Geulah shleima. So Yidden Takya would have gone into Eretz Yisrael then for good. So what's the hachana l'Geulah hi? Fisher nemra bas cholos haftorah asher lo yikava leish v'lo yiyachal b'nei adam. So the Rebbe puts a very interesting idea over here. That the idea that a person is not dependent on anyone else, only on the Eibishter, that's a preparation for the Geulah. And that's a sign of the Geulah, and that's an introduction to the Geulah. It's very interesting. It's a little bit like what it says in Masechta Soita, that Ein Lono, that they'll say, we have no one who to rely on. Ein Lono al Milei Shoin El Al Avinu Shebashamayim. Sometimes it's looked at as a negative, sometimes it's looked as a positive, but in what we're talking about over here, we're talking about literally that it's all about trusting and having faith in Hashem, no one else. Afal pi shezeu hazman hakoidem l'Geulah shleima mikol mokim oifen hanhaga aziyah shebnei Yisrael leyitztarchu lizokik la'acherim v'lismach al bnei adam l'rabes bnei adam Yisrael, even they won't have to rely on. K'moshe kosev arur hagever asher yiftach ba'adam ve'atem kruyim adam. So therefore, since even someone that relies on someone that's called Adam, which Adam is a Yid, Atem Kriyim Adam, that's also something that's a negative. Elohim yishanu rak ala kadosh baruch hu, k'moshe nemar, baruch hagever asher yiftach b'Hashem. Ume'achar shakosem medaber bizman as cholos hageulah, muvan, sheb'ma shekosov lo yikava le'ish goymer, shoylol hakosov lo rak hanhaga asura. Hanhaga shi heipcha Torah shallah namar arur hagever asher yiftach ba'adam el afilu hanhaga shel yikava leish yesh la makim al pi Torah af hi loitia ba'osim hayamim. So the Rebbe introduces a new thing. There's like an intermediate level. There's a level where a person totally relies on a person. That is arur. That's asur. That a Yid is not allowed to do. Then there's a level where he totally relies on Hashem. That's the preparation for the Geulah. And then there's a level that you're relying on a person, but it's in a way that's allowed according to Torah. That's what we're going to talk about now. So the Chazal explain what's the emphasis b'chol asher ta'aseh u'pirish b'sifri yachol yeyosh v'bashel. Since the Eibusha is going to give you brachas, don't do anything. Sit home. Talmud loymar b'chol asher ta'aseh k'loymar al pi Torah tzarich lasis kli b'derech hateva ve'in soimchim al hanes that min hashamayim I'm going to have my Parnassah. I'll just sit home and do nothing. V'kivon sheb'derech hateva pa'amim shetzarich lizakik leish, and this ish is not even an adam. V'afilu la'eina Yehudi lahavdil, sometimes he has to come on to harei sheyesh mokim al pi Torah la'anhaga she'yikava leish. I'm hoping I'm going to get an appointment with this guy to be able to sell him my goods. I'm hoping that I'll be able to meet this guy for whatever other reasons. I do have a kivui, I do have a tikva for a person. So how does this fit in what we spoke about before? Arur hagever, ve'ein ze bestirul etzivui. Arur hagever shiftach ba'adam, ki kisha adam oisa kli tivi, ein hu boiteach bedarki hateva, yikava leish mitzad atzmam, El ha-Bitachon hu b'Hashem, shehu, Hashem, yazer loy ayidei ha-kli v'alavush ha'echem b'derech hateva. So the point is, I am hoping to meet this person to be able to make this business deal. But why do I need this person? Because the Eibishter wants me to use derech hateva. The Eibishter wants to make kelim. And the kelim b'derech hateva means I need to go try to make an appointment with this person. That is still not the ultimate. Even though it's permitted, even though it's allowed. V'zeu toichen achidish b'zman ha'geula, oz yeh kital me'es Hashem goymer. Shein bo la'olam aydei adam v'lo yivakshu b'nei adam olav. You don't even ask for it. Kach lo yikavi Yisrael le'ezers ish kiyim la'Hashem. This is from Rashi. That kital and so on, it's not something that a person can have any control on. Al derech bir teres achsidus b'pasik toiv lachsis b'Hashem mi b'toyach ba'adam. So the explanation, the translation of this is, it's better. The word toiv over here means it's better, because when you say toiv, mi b'toyach, that means it's better to shield yourself in Hashem than to have trust in a person. If you're saying it's better, that means there's good and there's better. Asher maloshen toiv lachs Hashem mi b'toyach ba'adam. Again, he emphasizes the mem. Muvan shagam b'toyach ba'adam hu davar hamuter. Va'afzu derech ba'anhage. It's a derech in Hashem. El shalachs b'Hashem is toiv yoser. Then he's going to explain a little bit according to Chassidus this idea. The pirish b'toyach ba'adam hu ba'adam ha'elyon. What's the level of Adam Ha'elyon? Adam Ha'elyon is the spheres, just like a person has a brain and has a heart and has all the different limbs of this body and so on. So to the spheres are likened. There's Chacham bin Adas, that's the Moyach, the Midas, and so on. That's all Bechinas Memalech Olam. Ki mitzad madreges Memalech Olam tzarech Adam lishtadol lasis kli v'levush bedarchi hateva shebehem tishra birchas Hashem. The reason for this is because Memalech Olam takes into consideration the world. Memalech Olam is enclosed in the world. So therefore, you need to deal with world. V'lechein, toiv lachsois b'havaya. Hashem over here is going on the level of Yud Kei Vav Kei, higher than Adam, b'chinas soiviv kalam. It's better to go the pathway of soiviv. Shekei mitzad madrega zu. We'll soon explain what that means. Yichalkelecha means from the word kalkala, which means Parnassah, an economy, but also Chassidus explains Yichalkelecha from the word keli. HaKadosh Baruch Hu oise gamas hakeli. So therefore, if Hashem is making the keli, you don't even have to worry about the derech hateva. The Rebbe says it's only al derech because really these two levels are explained in Chassidus, if I remember correctly, as the difference between Yaakov's approach and Yosef's approach. Yaakov Avinu, it says, when it came to fight with Esav, they made 3 different plans. He's going to daven, and he's going to divide his camp, and he's going to give him a present, and so on. Yosef HaTzadik, it says, that because he asked the Sarah Mashkim to mention him by Pari, he was punished, and he sat another 2 years. So all the Mefarshim asked this, including Chassidus, what's the difference between Yosef and Yaakov? Yaakov did fine by planning and trying to figure out logically what to do. Yosef, on the other hand, what did he do? He asked the Sarah Mashkin, please mention me to Pari, I'm innocent. I'm sitting here for nothing. So this explains Yosef was on a higher level, and he should have been dealing with the level of Soyu Kalam where he doesn't even have to ask. Here we're not talking about not doing B'derech HaTeva at all. He's just saying, like he said at the beginning in the previous page, Al Derech, these 2 levels. A person has to do B'derech HaTeva regardless, but the approach, how do I look at Teva, is different. Dalet, Tachos HaKavonam, Eina Shanhagas HaTeva Tizbat, like we said before. We still need to do in Derech HaTeva. El Adrab, by doing things B'derech HaTeva, Levarer Ulahaloitzes Hanhagas HaTeva. If I wasn't doing Derech HaTeva, if I was just sitting home and just having Bitachon and having the Eibishter send me my Parnassah, so then I'm not elevating Teva, because I'm not engaged with Teva. But rather, I have to engage with Teva. Ad sheyegoli lein koil shegam HaTeva miyuchtem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mezem muvam binyaneinu, sha'apirish bevelo yikava le'ish, einoi sheyizbatel hasiyua haba me'a'ish. He'll still be engaged in nature. He'll still be approaching people that he has to make an appointment with to be able to make his business. In this time right before Moshiach, Ad shetirah bazeh loy ezras ish ela rak ezras Hashem. The very famous thing that a lot of times it says the Hayom Yom that Baalei Asokim, business people, see Hashgacha Pratis more than Baalei the Yoshvei Oil, because they actually can see. Yeah, I thought that the deal would come because of this and this and this, and in the end it came a whole different way. So this is what we're saying over here, that even in the Teva it becomes transparent and it allows the Lakus to appear. You should see that it's the Ezras Hashem. So now he's going to explain how this is the approach in the person's mind and how it affects him. That we brought before from the Sifri, that a person needs to work through nature. Echad, the lower level is Hashem is the one that's manipulating the teva, just like a wood chopper is holding onto the axe and chopping the wood. Nobody's going to thank the axe. Nobody's going to think about the axe. You're going to think about the wood chopper. Why? It's not because nature matters to him. The Rebbe brings an interesting example in the footnote. He says there's the famous thing that the Maraglim said about the Eibishter, Ein balabayis yochel lahotzias kelim misham. That Kaviyachal, the Eibishter, cannot remove the things that he has in his house. There was the Lamed Aleph Malachim. Hashem cannot deal with these Malachim, with these kingdoms, with all these Goyim that were in Eretz Yisrael. So the question is, what does that mean? Why did they think such a thing? How can they B'chlal even have such a Havamina that the Eibishter couldn't take him out? So it's explained that it didn't mean that he couldn't take him out miraculously. But the Eibishter wanted that things should be b'derech hateva. And like we're going to learn at the end of the Sikha, especially when the Yidden went into Eretz Yisrael, it was supposed to be b'derech hateva. That's the difference between Eretz Yisrael and the Midbar. The Midbar, everything was miraculous. Food came in Hashmaim, the clothing, everything was miraculous. Eretz Yisrael is the other way around. Everything has to go b'derech hateva. So they said, b'derech hateva, the Eibishter can't take him out. And that's why they said, Ein Baal Bais, Yochel Hoitzias Kelim Misham. So the same thing, there's a person that looks at nature as something important because the Eibishter gave it importance. Not that he believes that nature itself is what gives him his Parnassah. Beis, there's another approach. Ha'adam oisik b'teva rak mebnei shekach tziva Hashem. Ve'ilu ha'teva atzmai einoi teifes etzloi mokem ki hu roye b'y rak emtsoi lahashlim es retzoyin ha'boyre. It reminds me of the story, we mentioned this before, that there was this chassid, when there was the elections in Russia, when the Tsar was overthrown. So the Rebbe Rashab told his chassidim to go vote. It was the first time there was democracy in Russia. So this chassid, he's a chassid, the Rebbe described him. The Rebbe told him to go vote. So he first went to the mikveh, then he put on a gartel, and then he went over there to the voting place, and he still didn't know what to do. The other chassidim had to show him what to do. Because by him,
You voted the right guy?
Yeah, it seems to be he voted to the right guy.
He didn't vote for Biden, huh?
But the point is, he looked at it, it's all elikus. It's all the Rebbe told me to do. I'm going to the mikveh, I'm putting on my gartel, and so on. They say a joke, the reason why you don't make a bracha on tzedakah, on giving tzedakah, is because you can make a bracha on giving tzedakah, so then the guy's going to go to the mikveh, he's going to put on his gartel, he's going to be misboinen. In the meantime, the poor guy could die of hunger on your doorstep, whatever. But the point is, the second approach is, he looks at his involvement with nature. I got to put on tefillin in the morning, I got to daven, I got to go to work, because they just said I got to go to work. But it's not that I see that the work somehow brings anything. So the whole pasuk in Mishlei, I think it is, that goes through the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, Zroyim, Moed, Kachim, Taris, Nezikim, Noshim, all these things are hinted in this pasuk. The first one, Seder Zroyim, is hinted in the first part, Emunas. Itecha is Moed, times. Emunas zeh seder d'zroim. Why is emunas seder d'zroim? Shemamin b'chei ha'ilamin v'zereah. So the question is, what does that mean? Why does emunah have to do dafka with seder d'zroim with agricultural laws? What? And if I don't believe in the Eibishter, I'm not going to plant. Or is planting an expression of my belief in the Eibishter? Afal pi shezeu inyan tivi shel acher azriya ba'atzmicha ve'en kol nafka mina mi wazreya Yehudi or lahavdil eini Yehudi va'afilu kasher azriya hoisai de garin shenofel v'shaka b'dor ma'atzmi shaloyai de pulse adam. A seed fell into the ground, and somehow it got absorbed in the ground, and it took root. It's beteva adam l'atzmiach. We say to Mizu, Hateva nikva ba'adama ba'oifin kazah shekidivri ha'kosav Hashem swore after Noach left the Teva, zera v'kotzer gaimer lo yish boisu. So what does it have to do with mamen b'chei lamin, emunah, belief in the Eibishter? Mekol mokim, la'achrei kol zeh, ein hateva mekabel chashibas v'tfisus mokim be'enik shel Yehudi. L'kasher uzareya, ein hu oises zois, mipnei shalpi ateva zriya tavi l'tzmicha ki imrak mipnei shumamin b'chei ha'elamim l'kach v'zereya. Okay, this is two very interesting approaches, but the Rebbe wants to always bring it down in avodah apoil. How does it impact me? If in both cases I believe in the Eibishter, and in both cases I believe that the teva is only a tool of the Eibishter that I need to do. And it's a mitzvah from the Eibishter I need to do it. So what does it make a difference if teva has value in my mind, if teva has importance, because Hashem told me to do it, or if teva is totally transparent? Where is the practical result of that? Hachiluk ben shtei hanogus hanal, ein rak ba'oifen midas habitachon b'hargashasa, ela mishtalshel mizachiluk gam b'hanhoga b'poil b'machshava dibra mais. Mi shebe'enov asher tase hu mitzias b'fnei atzma va'teva toifes mokim etzloi hariyatzivui tase va'toira mitzvahs hem shnei inyonim nifrodim legabav v'chasher noitzeres stira bein ha'toira va'mitzvahs le'isaskas b'darki teva. For example, when is there a stira? L'dogma, im yarach betfilah hu olu la'abid munitin be'asaka v'kadoyma. It's very interesting, the expression in the Yiddish he uses, in the Yiddish sikha, you said you like to learn it in the Yiddish. In the Yiddish he uses the word Bekanntschaften. In other words, people that he gets to know. He's going to lose getting to know more people through davening longer. He doesn't say he's going to lose up his business, he's going to lose money. He's just going to lose acquaintances in this business by davening longer. Or im yahader b'nesinas tzedakah b'ribui ula yachzor loy ma'ois lashkia ba'esek yaitz b'zeh. So when could such ideas come up? We'll soon explain. That's when he gives importance to nature. Similar to the Maraglim saying, ein balabayis yachol lohoitzias kelo misham. By him, then, it's a challenge. It is a fight. There's one side and the other side. Yaakov and Esav, Kedusha and Klippa. Will this side win or will that side win? He will daven longer, and he will give more tzedakah, even though what runs through his mind is, if I daven longer, I might lose my acquaintances. If I give more tzedakah, I won't have as much funds to be able to invest in the business. Why is he willing to forego it? And instead of that, and therefore, since it's a battle, there's an internal war going on. That the other side can overpower, the Esav side, the Klippa side can overpower. Nimtza shezeh gufa hu lagabav inyan shel avodas Hashem. His going to work is avodas Hashem. Avurei v'chol masecha v'chol drachecha einam inyan nifrad milashem shemayim v'da'eyu. The whole phrase is v'chol masecha l'shem shemayim v'chol drachecha da'eyu. So you could divide the pasuk. You say masecha l'shem shemayim drachecha da'eyu. No, by this person, masecha is transparently l'shem shemayim. Drachecha is all about da'eyu. Elem chadurim bepnimiyusam b'l'shem shemayim v'da'eyu ad asher kula chad. V'kivin shalagabav ein shum mitzias malvader tzorna elyin. Moving she mitzvah achas eine yechayla liyas bestira mitzvah acheres ela adraba mitzvah gereres mitzvah. This is an inyan that the Rebbe in general is madgish, that you cannot say that fulfilling one mitzvah is going to prevent another mitzvah. For example, people said, you want to be Makarav Yidden, you got to go, easy on other things. Make the mechitza lower, or not be medayik on other type of hagbolos and hagdoros. So the Rebbe says, no, it doesn't work that way. Every mitzvah is goyer another mitzvah. It's not shayach that one mitzvah should prevent another mitzvah. So if I look at my work as a mitzvah, as a chol derech echad, chol masechel shem shemayim, as a tzivui with the Eibishter, so then it can't be a contradiction to my davening, to my giving tzedakah. So it's amazing what the Rebbe does over here. By giving us like this high type of approach to the idea of Bitachon, he gives us also a tool in the practical world how not to have the fights. We suffer a lot of times from having battles, internal battles with our Yetzer Hara. The Rebbe says, I have a solution, that you shouldn't have a problem with Yetzer Hara. Just switch gears a little bit. Switch the view about the physical world, and then you don't have this battle. HaChiluk ben shtei hanhagas elu einoi maschil ba'ofen goli b'inyonim shel poel mamish. HaYetzer Hara ein abom l'chatchila l'shadel Yehudi laver chas v'shalom al rotzna elyon. Ella, he starts mechut hasayra. Hayoim, he's going to quote the Maimer Chazal, Hayoim am lekach, Olamocher am lekach, and then afterwards he tells him to be lech avoid avodah zarah. Hayoim bas chol Yetzer Hara maimid. So there's the famous word to the Frierdiker Rebbe that we're soon going to explain. In the beginning, Yetzer Hara maimid ponim, kemi shemaskim shayis askus v'darkei hatevar oser shetir bestira lekim ha'torah mitzvahs. The Yetzer Hara says, you're right. You can't use teva as a reason why you're not going to be doing Torah mitzvahs appropriately. But he just says, but remember, don't forget, Torah says you have to work in teva. And that's the beginning. That's where he gets us. That's where he creeps in. And that's Kapirish Kvekis Meir Chamyad Muramayim Chazal, Kach U'Menosios Yetzer Hara, Hayoim Omer La Asei Kach. The Frierdiker Rebbe says, why did you tell him Asei Kach? What's this word Asei Kach? L'moch Omer La Asei Kach. So he says Asei Kach is an agreement. Do it this way. Do it the way you want to do it. But let me be involved. HaYetzer Hara Eine Maschel B'Shid La Yehudi Lasses HaHepech Meretzoyni Hamiti. V'laver chas v'shalom al rotzna elyon. Adraba hu omer la'asei kach. Hu maskim she Yehudi yekayim Torah mitzvahs. V'hu masber loy ketzu dvarim elu miskablim al pi ha'seichel she'anef shabamis v'ayetzer. V'ayidei ze shu ma'arves mitziyusei bekim ha'Torah mitzvahs. U'margil as adam she is dakik la'haskamosa she'yetzer hara. U'meivi oisel de kach asher l'mocher omer chula ad she'omer loy avoid avodah zarah. In other words, we've gotten comfortable with Yetzer Hara. We're now good friends. And I'm so excited. The Yetzer Hara is masking to me. It's like the Yidden in the times of Esther, that they were very excited, that they were so accepted in the government and the high officialdom. They were even invited. So the same thing. Ooh, the Yetzer Hara is masking. So we're now buddies. So once they're buddies with the Yetzer Hara, the next step is that the Yetzer Hara starts telling him other things. ולכן הדרך להישמר כדבוי מתחבולוס היצר הרה אין הידי אבויד על פי טעם ודס. כי טעם ודס נויסתם מוקים למציאס הטבע. אלא הידי ביטול למסירס נפש לרוצן העליין למעלה מטעם ודס Ba'oifen she'ein eitzel ha'adam shum mitzias malvad ha'rotzna elyon. And this is going to be important in connecting it to the end of our parsha as well. Me'ein val derech ha'chiluk anal sif gimel bein lachsis b'Hashem bein b'toich ba'adam. Mitzad b'chinas b'toich ba'adam. We said before Adam is a level of malak halamin. That's the idea of an Adam. An Adam is intellect. And it starts with intellect, and from intellect comes down the emotions. So Adam, even Adam Elyon, gives room for an Avodah Shal Pi Tam V'das. So when you're an Avodah of Malak Olam, an Avodah that's based on Tam V'das, like we said before, Yesh L'Darkei HaTeva Tfisas Mokim when it comes to the level of a Malak Olam. Mash'enki mitzad lachsis ba'avaya b'chinas soiv k'lalmin u'ba'avodas ha'adam bittul shalamayla mitam v'das ein l'darkei hateva shum tfisas mokim v'lachein ha'seder hu v'hu yichal kelecha achein yeshnam kelim avlein boim al mailom so val derech hamar le'el that even when you do the work, not like Yosef HaTzadik that shouldn't have done anything, שגם כאשר אדם עוסק בדרכי הטבע, אין להם שום מציאס בעיניו, עד כדי כך שאין מוקים לא יאמר כלל שישנה עזרס איש, לא יקבל לאיש, like we said at the beginning of the שיחה. שכן דרכי הטבע חד עם הקדוש ברוך הוא. He doesn't see that as a person. He doesn't see the work as something separate. It's all part of the Eibishter. וזהו אביר בכך שהאחרונה לגאולה היא לא יקבל לאיש גוימר באויסי הזמן יוסר לגמרי הלם והסתר הטבע עד שיראה בעיני בשר איך הטבע גופו הלכוס. That's we know, always Chassidus always talks about. That's what the time of the Geulah is about. ולכן תהיה עוז ההנהגה כתלמיס השם. See, it come from above. לא יקבל לאיש לא יאכל בני אדם על דרך והוא יאכל כלך. Similar to the idea of the Eibush to bring the kelim. Al pi kol anal tuvan shachas Haftorah l'sim Parshas Balak sheboy mesuper oides chet bal pa'or val kach sham Mesirus Nefesh of Pinchas tikaneach as a chet, I think it's supposed to say. This is a printing error. That the Dafkin Pinchas' Mesirus Nefesh brought about a kapara of the fact that the Yidden followed Bal Pa'or. U'k'may shenemar that tachas asher kinei lelekov, because Pinchas took a stand for the Eibishter, vayechaper al bnei Yisrael. It wasn't just he attacked Zimri and he eradicated the evil, but with that he brought a kapara on Klal Yisrael. Why is that so? Because of his Mesirus Nefesh. Mevur b'chsidus sheshoydish chet bal pa'or, that the Gemara says, what does it mean bal pa'or? Shepoyerim moitziin re'i v'zoy avidasai. So Chassidus, like in other Mefarshim, want to know what type of crazy avodah is that. You go ahead and you defecate in front of your avodah zarah. What's the idea? So Chassidus explains like this. Where does human waste come from? Our enjoyment, our food. That becomes waste. In a similar vein, our food is the waste product of the malachim, of the oil misal yonim, there's tainug ruchni, and the waste product of the tainug ruchni and the oil misal yonim came down, the tanugim down here in this world. So the idea of Baal Pa'or, focusing on waste, that whose nesinas chashivas latanugim gashvim, shebe'emes im rak psoilas ma tainug shalomaylam. So the question is, Ketzi, you're talking sheyas adam ikir mit tanugim gashvim, which is psoilas. So the reason is adover neveh mikach shedarkei hateva toifsim etzlim mokim kanal v'zegoyrim lo'elias rachman l'san mushka b'inyonim gashmim. Ubezeh yuvan gam ma'amer chazal b'negea l'kapora al chet bal pa'or. So there's a very interesting ma'amer chazal about it. There's a lot of different cases where the Yidden did whatever wrong in the midbar and they needed a kapora and there was punishments and there were different things going on. But the Chazal say, Ad achshav lo zaz. Until this day, what Pinchas did does not stop. Ela oimed u'mechaper ad sheyichyu hamesim. Why is that so? What's the connection? Why dafke of all the different things, this thing stands all the way into Moshiach times? שהתר והכפורה של חצה בשלימוס יהיה רק לעשות לבוי, כשתהיה השלימוס הבירה בטבע, ויהיה ניכר שהטבע הוא מיוחד בתכלס המלכוס, וממילא לא תהיה אפשרס לעשות עניין הגשמי לעיקר. Because when godliness and the world is together, you're not going to even think about making the physicality any value. ולכן בא הכפורה על ידי מסירות נפש של פנחס. מסירות נפש זו, it's a Mesirus Nefesh like no other Mesirus Nefesh in the Torah. HaTorah atzmai meres alaha ein moirin loy. If it says someone that's boil aramis, so kanoim poigim boy. People are very, get very excited, they're poigim boy. But if someone comes to Bezdin and asks, should I kill him? It says ein moirin loy. So that means there is no halachic obligation to do so. Aval Pinchas lo yispoil afil mekach that it's ein moirin kein. Mesirus Nefesh, literally he risked his life. The Rashi alludes to this, and it's brought down in the Mamor Chazal about literally he was in danger every single moment when he attacked Zimri. Zoi Mesirus Nefesh shalamayla fil metam vadas Kedusha, because there's other Mesirus Nefesh that Kedusha could understand, could bring a reasoning for it. This was beyond the reasoning of Kedusha. Amar leil dafkai de bitl shalamayla metam vadas. Afilu the Kedusha, Adam, the level of Malklam, higher on and all of that. Efshali shamr kidboy shaloi lahafrid ben tevel alakus. So now we'll understand why this was right before the Yidden went into Eretz Yisrael. The Parshas Balak hoyu besmiches mamish lezman haknisa kanal siv beis. Bamidbar hayir damon hanhagen nisi shalgabel loy hoya kol makim litois shebaysim ne'adam yachol lahoyel mashu bekach. If I would even think that I could somehow get more and I could somehow earn more, didn't help. I went and I loaded up my shopping cart with a lot of money and it didn't help. I still had the same amount. It's brought down that some people, the Alter Rebbe brings down Shulchan Aruch, that there's a minute to say Parshas Amon, to be able to, every single day, to be able to teach us this idea of Bitachon. So that was the Seder in the Midbar. Seder in the Midbar, we saw openly that nature didn't matter. Here was the case where we had to be careful about. The Afapi Shemaschel Ata Seder al Piteva. So you would think, nature makes a difference. Nature is important. This is what the Abishah wants us to do. Tzarech gam kan li'искayim b'bnei Yisrael le'ikava le'ish goymer sheyedu sha'ateva einu mitzias la'atzmai v'gam ata yesh tzorech ba'oisa betachem ha'kodesh baruch hu m'shahoy b'midbar. It shouldn't lessen my betachem just because I'm planting and I'm doing all the natural things I didn't have to do in the midbar. Still in all, now we have to be told and now we have to realize it's not that way. It's not the nature that's doing it. Zoi gam hayrol yom machrein shel zman hagolos bezman ha'achonel k'lis l'Eretz Yisrael yom Moshiach tzidkein. Af al pi shonu nesunim adayim b'choshech ha'kofel u'mechupel shel zman hagolos heipach haschalta de Geulah. The Rebbe in the footnotes really like knocks this home, and he says that what does it mean kofel u'mechupel? What's a double and quadruple darkness? There's one type of darkness, the Rebbe says, where it's dark, there's no light. But a worse type of darkness is when samim choshech la'or, like the lashon of the Navi. That they call the darkness, they call it light. The very fact that there's some people that say that this is the period of Eschalta de Geulah, that itself is a quadruple darkness. That's a double darkness on top of a double darkness. Okay, how dark it is. So the Rebbe always says that even things that are really only going to happen at the time of the Geulah, we have to start practicing them now as well. Shemashiach oimed achar sleinu v'yiseirim mizu kosle agolos kvar boyerim. They brennen. The Geulah vent brennen shoin. Tzarech liyas me'ein al kolponim. Something. Me'ein ha'avoida shalo yikava li'ish goymer ba'avoidas kol echad ve'echad. Ein tzrich liyas kol chashivas l'darkei ha'teva va'bitachon tzarech liyas rak ba'Hashem. At least we have to aim for it, try for this. Va'ideza, first of all, personally, yigoil kol echad ma'adaigis v'inyan ma'mavalvelim. All the worries, all the concerns will leave him. I'm doing it as a mitzvah. I have the chiyuv to go to work every morning. That's it. What happens afterwards, that's the Eibishter's cheshbon. Now, the Geulah prati zu abal chalechet ve'echad, that everybody is released from their daigus. Higam ha'achana va'akli legula achlos demshech tzedkenu. Where it's again the idea of Shabbos. It's a time where we cease work. It's not about the avodah b'darkei hateva at all.